Hey folks, let's talk about Brand X dropper seat posts and how do you measure your frame to fit Brand X. We've got loads of Brand X on the shelf here at Frothy, and a common question is, will a 200 fit my bike? Will a 150 fit my bike? We don't know straight away. There's quite a few measurements we need you to take from home before we can send you out a dropper seat post or bring your bike in for us to fit it. The first size you need to measure is the circumference, so the overall circumference of the seat post. 9 times out of 10 it'll be stamped on the bottom or inked. In this case it's 27.2. If it's not stamped or inked, use some verniers and check it out. There's 3 main sizes generally: 27.2, 30.9 and 31.6. That's your general sizes. The next size you're going to need to get is the overall sticking out of your frame. How much of your seat post sticks out your frame whilst you're climbing a hill, your normal setting. Most people have marked their seat posts if they're doing a lot of biking, but what is your overall length? So we're measuring this not just to the swan neck, measuring it to the actual saddle rail itself, because the swan necks can differ in height and style. So in this one here, measuring from the swan neck down to the seat clamp, and I've got 240, let's call it 240 mil, just for argument's sake. So in this situation, 240 mil doesn't mean that a 200 mil dropper will work. It won't work. We need to take into account that there's a 30 mil, what do you call this here? Seal, 30 mil collar from the dropper seat post. So I've not enough coffee yet today. So there's a 30 mil part here, plus there's a little bit involved up here. So if that's 240 mil, and we measure this on this one, so 240 mil on this would be down to here. So a 170 mil dropper would work fine for this. If we put a 170 mil dropper in this frame, then that is where your collar would sit, and that's how much seat post you'd have sticking out the top, which is perfectly acceptable. And when you slam your seat, you're bringing it down 170 mil drop. I hope you understand. So like I say, you're measuring from the collar to the rail, and then I'm going to put all these sizes up so you can, when you measure this size, you know what size is going to fit 170 mil. So 170 on 240 is going to be fine. You're going to have enough clearance for this to be sticking out of your frame. This obviously can't go inside your frame, so whenever you fit a 170, that is the shortest you can have a 170. So the smallest seat post out of your frame you can have for 170 would be 220. That makes sense. 170 drop, but you still need to have 220 sticking out of your frame up to the rail to fit inside. I'll put these sizes up for the 150, 170 and 200 that's sitting in the background here. 200 is quite, it's actually 250 sticking out minimum. You'd probably go for a little bit more than a 200. The next size that catches everyone out is, once you've worked that out and you realise that that'll fit in your frame, it's how deep can you fit into your frame. Obviously the 200 being the biggest one behind there. You've got different parts inside your frame that are going to hinder this. It's either bottle cages or the way that the frame's been designed around about the shock. It'll stop this from going as deep into the frame. We've been caught out with a few customers. Mondraker is one of the brands that we got caught last week with. The 200 would stick out its frame absolutely fine, riding height. Internally, no go, because the shock sat around about here at an angle through the seat post column, which meant the smallest he could go. I managed to get a 170 on his, but you need to measure this depth. So on a 200 mil dropper, you're going to need to have at least 320 mil internally available. If you need to slam it to the collar, you need to have 320 mil available internally, and that's freely available all the way at the bottom. You can't have angled bits of carbon at the bottom or a solid alloy stopper at the bottom there. You need to have a little bit of movement because the cable is going to have to come out there. The cable can come at a slight angle, but it can't just come out here and turn 90 degrees. That's not possible. So again, I'll put all these sizes online, but if you are taking a 200 mil dropper, so externally you would have 250 mil sticking out your frame. Internally, you're going to have 320 available to put your frame into it. They're the main sizes you're looking for. When you're looking at Brand X online, if you're looking online suppliers, the numbers that are going to come up with this, ignore these, are just barcoding. 30.9 is the overall circumference. 499 is the overall length that they're talking about. It's kind of hard to gauge that because they are talking about from rail pretty much down to tip. They're not telling you how deep this section here is because it differs on model to model. They're all the same across the models in terms of 170 is always this depth and a 200 is always this depth, but they don't tell you that in the box. That's why we're gonna upload some data into this YouTube clip description so you understand it a bit more. The overall length, that's all they talk about, and of course the 170 drop as well. 150, 170, 200, they're the common sizes. There's a few beneath that as well. I think there's 105, 85, there's a few other sizes from brand X, but hopefully this covers everything you need to know to measure up and put into your frame. One last thing, if it is a smaller seat post you're going for, you can always use a shim to shim it up to your size. So the shims can slide onto, they still work on dropper posts as well, can slide on. So this takes this seat post from 27.2 up to 30.9, and you can do the same for a 30.9 up to 31.6. If the 31.6 is out of stock or you can't get it, you can go for the next size down. So you can always go for a smaller seat post, shim it to fit a larger frame. Obviously you can't do it the other way around. Big things don't fit in small holes. Hope that makes sense. Any tips or any comments you'd like to come back on regarding sizing up, let us know. We're always keen to learn and get better at our job. Thanks for watching.